President Christina Paxson from Brown University.
Thank you. Nothing can really fully bring closure to the lives that have been shattered over the past week, but this may allow our community to move forward and begin a path of repair and recovery and healing. I want to thank the dedicated law enforcement agencies that have worked so tirelessly on this case, really around the clock, as well as our neighbors and others who participated in giving tips and helping with the investigation. We hope that this outcome tonight brings an increased sense of safety for our community at Brown and in the surrounding area. This has been a period of great fear and anxiety for many people, and now perhaps some form of relief. Truly, this week has been devastating for our community in a number of ways, including the experiences that members of our community have had with being targeted by online rumors and accusations. And I hope that this development also means an end to this truly troubling activity. So we remain focused on the safety and security of our community and in support for the victims of this senseless violence. Now, we know the public and our own Brown community members will want to know more about the individual now identified by law enforcement as the suspect in last weekend's shooting. And we can confirm the following to the best of our knowledge, based on our review in the very short time since law enforcement authorities made us aware of this development. And we provided this information to law enforcement as they build their case and wrap up the investigation. So Claudia Manuel Neves Valente was enrolled at Brown from the fall of 2000 to the spring of 2001. He was admitted to Brown's graduate school to study in the Master's of Science PhD program in physics, beginning on September 1st, 2000. And he took a leave of absence effective April 2001 before formally withdrawing effective July 31st, 2003. During his time at Brown, Nueves Valente was enrolled only in physics classes. The majority of physics classes at Brown have always been held within the Barris and Hawley classrooms and labs. Now, detailed records indicating where specific courses were held don't extend back to 2001. But we can say that physics classes typically require access to specialized equipment, including demonstration carts that are a fixed asset in some of Barris and Hawley classrooms. So I think it's safe to assume that this man, when he was a student, spent a great deal of time in that building for classes and other activities as a PhD student in physics. He has no current active affiliation with the university or campus presence. So again, we thank law enforcement and so many others for their extensive work on this case, day and night, and we look forward to a sense of restored safety for Brown, Providence, and the Rhode Island communities. Thank you.
Thank you, President Paxson. The last speaker, and then we will take your questions, is the Chief of the Brown Police Department, Chief Chapman. Remember, his officers were the first to respond on Saturday, and we are so grateful for both their immediate and heroic response and their partnership over the last 5 days. Chief.
I want to express my ongoing prayers and care and concern for our entire community. I certainly also want to acknowledge and thank the men and women of the Brown University Police and Public Safety for their efforts. As you see, this was a Herculean task and required a lot of collaboration and work. And our officers and our public safety personnel were shoulder to shoulder with these assets. I do want to also thank all of you who have helped citizens and law enforcement. That partnership and collaboration means the world to us, and we couldn't have gotten there without you. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We'll now open up to questions. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What led authorities to link the incidents between Brown University and MIT?
I can be done.
And I can follow up to that.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll just tell you that a lot of the information and evidence that we ended up gathering linked us to a connection up in Massachusetts, obviously at the MIT. But I feel a respect to the authorities in Mass as well as the FBI that's for them to comment. But I'll tell you that the groundwork that started in the city of Providence by our detectives, the detective division under the command of Major LePayan, as well as the federal partners that we had in our room upstairs, and ATF, the FBI, led us to that connection. And so that was great work.
Special Agent Diablo, does FBI want to weigh in on that? And then I have a follow-up.
I think through that particular link that you're talking about, that case is being worked out of Massachusetts with the leadership of U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. I believe that they are having a press conference today as well, where they'll reveal more to the general public at that time. I'd be remiss to start and kind of talk on this, to let them kind of have first dibs to kind of be the ones to tell the public about those particular links.
And your follow-up.
But your
And,
follow-up,
yeah,
sir.
then, as for the second person who came forward, what did that person tell you, and did that person know the shooter?
So yeah, obviously I had mentioned at the last press conference that it was a person that we wanted to speak with. The work of the video collections that we had led us to identify that there was a person that actually encountered this individual. So it corroborated everything that we saw. We saw our person of interest. We saw that there was a vehicle involved. When this person came in, broke the case in the sense that explained to us exactly what we thought we had seen and put that individual at the crime scene. Obviously, that was the break, because we knew that we were in the right direction to ensure that we were going after this individual, but obviously took his life.
Colonel.
Go ahead. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Did Mr. Valenti act alone, and is there an anti-Semitism component behind this, do you expect?
As far as we know, Steve, he acted alone.
And is there an anti-Semitism component to this?
No, that we know of, no.
John.
Colonel, what was the events that led to the storage facility? So was he pursued there? Did he know authorities were going after him? When was he last alive? Like, how did that play out?
So it plays out in the sense that we obviously, I just stated, we collected all the evidence. We were able to learn that there was a rental vehicle. We learned about that vehicle. There was financial records that were verified by the FBI, obviously, and other agencies. I'm sorry, actually, so another agency, so multiple agencies that verified financial records that brought us to that site to know that he had actually rented a site at the storage unit, and then we ended up in Salem.
In a follow-up,
Yep.
when he did that, did he know authorities were coming, or did he just go and, like, how long had he been in that storage unit?
That we're not aware of, John, in the sense that all we knew is that we were on a manhunt, and that's what he led us to. So.
Amanda.
Oh, thanks. Chief, some questions for you, Claudio. So he graduated, well, he did graduate. He was at Brown more than 20 years ago. His last known address was in Miami, but now he's here at Brown University, potentially also at MIT. What do you know about what brought him up here?
There's going to be unknown answers that we have no answer as far as that. Obviously, came up here and committed this horrific incident and this tragedy, and that's all we knew. Our mission was to ensure that we could find him and bring him to justice, but yeah,
No motive at this point.
At this point, correct.
And my follow-up is of the evidence that you've collected. Have you collected the handgun that you believe was used in the shooting? Have you collected any type of manifesto or evidence that he planned more shootings?
So as far as I know, that's the FBI evidence recovery team is up in Salem, New Hampshire, and they're collecting whatever evidence is up there. This happened just now, as before we came up here.
Bill.
Any criminal history, political affiliations, any social media posts, anything of that sort that you can report to us about Mr. Valenti?
Nothing that I know of, Steve.
Behind him. Go ahead, white shirt.
Is there any indication that Mr. Valenti was planning any future attacks?
Nothing that we know of, no.
In the way back.
Special Agent Docs, can you also tell us if the connection, I know you said you can't talk too much about the MIT, but the fact that it was a physics professor out of MIT and in the physics building and he was studying physics, have you tied all that up, and does that make, why target one person in Massachusetts and then a whole class here in Providence?
Yes, it is true that Mr. Valenti was a physics student. Also, we know that the MIT, the victim there, was in that discipline as well. I will tell you that there's multiple phases to an investigation, and so now in a sense that we know the subject is deceased, now that investigation continues to find out all of those answers to your question, sir.
Did you go to school with the professor? Did you go to school with Professor who was killed in Brown? Answer that.
It is believed that in Lisbon that those two individuals attended the same university in Portugal.
You have a follow-up in the back.
En español, si nos pudiera decir también unas palabras, ya sea ahorita o cuando se quede.
Muy poquito.
Go for it.
But,
Sorry, empiezo desde el principio.
Lo que nos puedan resumir acerca del caso, qué fue lo que conllevó a que ustedes pudieran dar con el paradero del sospechoso y las conexiones que tuvieron, cómo llegaron a rastrearlo y más que nada a qué atribuye todo esto.
So the question was if I can briefly explain how we got to this individual and what occurred.
A major announcement tonight, the gunman in the Brown University shootings found dead. The manhunt is over, and prosecutors tonight saying he acted alone.
He's identified as 48-year-old Claudio Nieves Valente. They got a lot of information from a rental car that he rented outside Logan Airport. We also can tell you that at 10:30 tonight, the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office will be giving us more information. It is saying tonight, those two groups saying tonight, this is the same man who gunned down the MIT professor in his doorway on Monday night.
And hearing moments ago that they went to the same university in Lisbon, Portugal. We have much more coming up on the WBZ News at 11 o'clock. We hope to see you then.
Que nos llevó a Salem, New Hampshire. Allá hubo una entrada táctica del equipo del FBI y encontramos que esta persona se había quitado la vida ellos mismos. Ahora estamos investigando más si hay algo que necesitamos saber más de él.
Alex.
Colonel or AG, is there a note or manifesto of some kind, and is that providing any information about a motive or anything that they might have done during the investigation? The FBI recovery team in forensics are up in Salem, New Hampshire. At this point, we don't have any of that. Any indication of why now? What's the significance behind why this happened on Saturday?
That we don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that question. I think there's a lot of unknowns with respect to motive. I mean, I think that the real issue here is the key was to identify this person, as we talked about yesterday. I think there are other answers that are coming, but once we were able to identify him, thanks to that individual who came forward, who led us to a plate, which led us to a rental car, which led us to that he rented that car in his own name, that really broke the case open. But in terms of why Brown, I think that is a mystery. I think there may be something going on in Massachusetts that I'm not fully familiar with because we're working this angle, but I think the Massachusetts authorities may be able to share that. Yeah, I don't think we have any idea why now or why Brown, why these students, why this classroom. That is really unknown to us, and it may become clear. I hope that it does, but it hasn't as of right now.
Fox, go
This
ahead.
is for the Colonel or the Attorney General. At 2:16, there was a surveillance video that showed the second person that apparently blew this case wide open, and also Mr. Valente. You see them disappear behind bushes. Was this second person following the shooter? Did he recognize him and confront him? What was that interaction like? And I have a follow-up.
That's a great question, and I'll be all explained in the affidavit that the general stated it will be released. But I'll give you a brief sort of explanation about that. The person that we wanted to speak with had an interaction with this individual earlier in the day. Then observed him later at that time where you just stated, and decided that he was going to encounter him and asked him why he was inside Brown. At that point, the subject of interest, Mr. Neves, actually ran. He was caught up by our person that we wanted to speak with. There was sort of a conversation between the two of them, and Neves asked him, "Why are you harassing me?" And at that point, the person that broke the case walked away. And that information was critical to us because he was able to corroborate what our detectives were seeing on video, and he was able to provide a great explanation.
And my follow-up question
Yes.
is, why did it take a citizen to notice a suspicious person right next to Brown University and not the police? And also, how long was the vehicle parked where it was? And was it days, hours, minutes? What were we talking
It
about?
appeared to be days as far as the evidence. Why would a civilian observe that to be suspicious? It's a great point. And I like the fact that you're mentioning that and bringing that up. That's what we should all be doing, right? And it's just personality. Some people are more interested in finding out what others are doing. In this particular case, this person decided that he wanted to, and I'm glad he did.
Should the police be interested in that? Not
That's it.
citizens as well?
In the back.
Now that the suspect, Attorney General, now that the suspect won't be prosecuted, can you explain what he yelled in the classroom to America tonight so people can
Sure.
feel a little more comfortable?
Sure.
Was it something, terrorist related? Was it something specific to the kids in that class?
Yeah.
What did he say? Can you now tell us?
Yeah, well, back to that question just for a minute, just to clarify that. They had a interaction in the bathroom in Barris and Holly. So, I don't know, the Providence Police is obviously not going to patrol Barris and Holly. That's a question frankly, for Brown and their police department. So they had an interaction there, and then our citizen, followed him out because to him, as he explained it to us, this guy did not belong there. And so that's why he followed him out. In terms of what was said, I don't know any more today than what I told you yesterday, or the day before. There are some witnesses who said he said nothing. There are some that say he made a barking noise. Don't ask me. I don't know why. And that's it. There is no other spoken word beyond that we are aware of as we stand before you tonight. And we have spoken to everybody that we have been able to locate who's been inside that building.
And just to the special agent in charge, my follow-up question is, can you just be clear to the people of Massachusetts, and I know you said the people in Norfolk County investigated the mass, but you did say a few days ago that you talked to the colonel of the state police and said there's no connection between Brookline and what happened here in Rhode Island. But now you're saying there was a connection, so are you saying that he shot up Brown University, then 2 days later he was at this house in Brookline to shoot this MIT professor, and then he just drove up to Salem, New Hampshire for no reason? How did he get into a storage facility?
No, I think that's a great question. My actual statement was that we didn't see a connection at that time. But absolutely, I spoke to the colonel. Right now, that case is being presided over by U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. They're having a press conference at 10 o'clock tonight, I believe. I think at that time, they will speak to that particular case. I would be getting a little bit ahead of my skis if I spoke to that case without consultation with Leah Foley and her team, as we've been in the trenches working this up to the minute today, sir.
Because 2 days ago you didn't know they were connected, now you're saying they appear to be.
Yes, and that's how cases often go. I would say at that time, when that question was asked of me, there was no indication of a link at that time. As we've talked throughout this week, these breadcrumbs develop, and we'll see what she has to say today at 10 p.m.
If I can I just want to jump in here on that, please. I just want to jump in here on that because it's a good question. It's an important one. So, just to put everyone's mind at ease who's listening now, he didn't just drive to some random storage area. We found records with the help of the FBI and others that was his storage area. So he rented a car in Boston. He drove it. We were able to find that car in New Hampshire. We were able to find evidence in the car from looking at it from the outside that connected this individual to our crime scene here in Rhode Island. We were able to find visual evidence of him inside that storage facility, which, in my judgment, matches him to the Massachusetts scene. So you'll hear more, as the special agent said, but there is no question that was his storage unit, that he had a particular car, that we found that car because of this citizen coming forward and giving us a description of the car, and then our individual who came forward, we knew he was telling the truth because we could see it on the videotape. And so that was a series of things that broke this case. And that led us to Salem, where the suspect was found dead.
Steph.
I believed to be living in Miami. Did he fly here at some point? How long was he in Providence for, and when did he obtain the guns?
Go ahead.
Yeah, he like I said, it'll be in the affidavit, but he did fly into Providence, I believe, earlier October, I believe. That's the right date. And what was the other question? I'm sorry, Steph.
And did he buy the guns here, or where did he get the guns?
So I'm sorry, I can't answer.
We don't know the answer to that, Steph, as we stand here right now.
Okay, he can't fly with them, so assuming he got them sometime after he arrived.
Well, that's possible. What we do know is that he was moving around New England in that October, November, and December area. You remember, we just we know that there's a body in New Hampshire. We know that there are guns at the scene. It still remains to be examined, comparing those guns to the ballistics evidence we have in Rhode Island, and I imagine they'll do that in Massachusetts, but again, that's somebody else's investigation. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we match the DNA. But we are 100% confident that this is our target, and that this case is closed from a perspective of pursuing people involved.
And Steph, just to add, I think Special Agent Doug stated, obviously we didn't know who he was. And so it's very difficult to know what a person did prior without any knowledge of who that person is.
Dan.
Can I just ask Special Agent this question? It sounds like from everything everybody's saying that the person who came forward to speak to you is kind of the hero in this story in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
We know that there's a $50,000 reward. Did he get the reward?
You know, I will say that in this particular situation, that individual will likely get absolutely some aspect out of that award. We've had a lot of other tips, I will tell you as well, that have come in from the public, and so I don't deal typically with the distribution of those rewards. But I mean, it would be logical to think that absolutely that individual would be entitled to some of that reward. Yes, sir.
Second row, red shirt. Go ahead. Yeah, you.
Thank you. Fox News Digital. Do we know when or how the suspect left Providence? For the colonel.
Well, we know he left Providence and committed a homicide in another state. On that, but we don't know. I'm sorry. How did he leave?
No, do we know when he left Providence?
Yeah, when he left. That's what. As far as we know, that he left. But we didn't. I believe his last activity was obviously when we found out he was in another state committing another crime.
Pat.
Pat Ford, Coalition Radio. I'll throw this out to all of you, with particular regards to the Brown University president. A recurring theme for the last few days has been an outreach, ultimately successful, to the people of Rhode Island and the people of New England to track this individual down. While at the same time, we've got this sort of passive-aggressive criticism of individuals who are being actively asked to engage via social media, who are wildly spreading rumors, some of which couldn't have possibly emanated anywhere than law enforcement. And I do have a follow-up. So would anyone like to respond to that? I mean, it's kind of condescending to a lot of people. I know, Governor Key, you're confused. That's not uncommon. But
all right, that's uncalled for. All right, we're moving on. Current.
Can we come over here then?
No, current.
Came forward with the case-breaking tip. Was that information originally posted online, or was that person encouraged to come forward based on what people online told them?
Correct. There was a tip that was placed online, and obviously we were doing our due diligence to find out who that tipster was. And then we were able to identify this person who we wanted to speak with, and then we learned that that person was actually the same person that put the tip on that up that you're speaking about.
Brian.
I'm sorry?
Does that person live in the area?
It was the same person that we brought into the police station to speak with.
The images that you showed at the beginning, where you can see Mr. Valente's face, where were those images taken from?
They were taken from the car rental business place that we learned about.
None of them were at Brown.
No.
President Paxson, if you could, so the situation is described that you had the suspected gunman and this other person had an encounter in the engineering building hours before the shooting. I had been told by an employee that there had been concerns raised at Brown previously about people getting in the building. Have you heard those, and was anything done to address those concerns about people getting into the building?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think we're going to have to look back and say, you know, we don't know how this person got in. We don't know when they came in. We do know that the building was unlocked that day for exams. and that's something we're going to have to
Had
look
you heard
into.
concerns from staff members in the past?
I
about
have
security of
not
the building?
personally heard concerns, but, yeah.
Dan.
President Paxton, Dan Jane from NBC 10. I want to go back to the question I asked you Saturday night when I first arrived on the scene. There were no cameras in this building. And law enforcement, some that are standing up behind you, have said if Brown had cameras in that part of the building, we would have gotten this guy. And it may have stopped this swirling action. Can you answer that question for me?
Well, I don't think we have said the locations of cameras at Brown. We
But
have
there's no cameras in that
we
building
have
because why would they take it from a rental car agency?
we have 1,200 cameras at Brown.
But not in that building.
We have some in that building. It's a large complex. And I think what you would see is the video evidence in this case, from my perspective, I'm not a law enforcement agent, has been incredibly helpful. The moving of the person around the neighborhood, those video images, they help crack this case. So I think video was important. And as the Attorney General explained at a recent press conference, this individual was not spending his time on the Brown campus. He came into a building on the edge of the campus. He left. He was in the neighborhoods. The investigation focused on the neighborhoods. The video was there. And that was really, really instrumental in cracking the case.
And
But
my
you can
second-
ask them.
And this is my follow-up, Madam President, if you'd stay at the podium. Yes, video played a big role in this case. The neighbor's video, the rental car video, but not the video from the building that he walked in freely both before when he got in a confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that building. Just say it so we can get this over. And my next question is, will you put
Dan, you get
cameras
one
in-
follow-up.
Will
Yeah.
you put the cameras in the building?
Yeah.
Will we walk cameras in that building?
Yeah, I think we need to look back. We'll look at everything that is done, but I do not think a lack of cameras in that building it had anything to do with what happened there. And we will
Thank
go
you, Madam
forward.
President.
Thank you.
Question for
Tom.
Tom Quinlan, WPRO. Colonel Perez, I'm hearing from sources that the person that identified the shooter happened to be a homeless person that either lived around or inside that Barris and Holly building. Can you confirm more about this person for us? And then I have a follow-up for President Paxton.
I'll tell you there was a person that was pretty attentive about his surroundings. I'll tell you there was a person that was very cooperative and helpful to this investigation. And I'll tell you that he was a great individual that actually assisted us in getting us to this point where we're at. I'll tell you
Brown
that.
graduate?
He was, yes.
I have to say, he was incredibly articulate, and his testimony, had we needed it, would not only have been credible, it would have been persuasive. He was as outstanding a witness as I've seen, and he deserves a lot of credit. You know, recognizing there's a gunman on the loose, that the gunman knows he had this interaction with him, and he didn't. Once he knew that we were looking for his help, I mean, he came forward within an hour. And that person deserves a tremendous amount of credit. I don't know whether he's going to get the reward or not, but if I had a vote, he would.
All right, Tom, you got to follow. Are you done?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My question was for Chief Chapman, if you wouldn't mind. In October, the Brown Daily Herald reported that you had a vote of no confidence in your leadership, and students were concerned for their safety and the fact that you had prioritized desk jobs over having over field jobs and having more people patrolling the campus. Now, in light of this, do you accept any kind of responsibility for this? And now that we have given these prior warnings, are you going to reevaluate how the Brown police operate in the future now, so this doesn't happen again and these students can feel more safe on campus when they return?
Right. So, as I stated earlier, I'm profoundly proud of the men and women of public safety and profoundly proud of our police department. We will continue with the heroic work that they've done and continue to work side by side with our partners. And everything else that comes with that is a continual effort to do what is best for the safety and security of our campus.
But will you reassess how the people are allocated within your department?
Every single day, we work and endeavor to keep our campus safe, whatever that entails and all that entails.
In the back.
Yes, Kim with AP. I was wondering, maybe this question for the Colonel. Can you talk, you said that 2 weapons were found in Valente's car. Was that one of those weapons, the gun that was used to shoot here at Brown? Has that weapon been found? Can you speak to that?
That's all part of this continuing investigation. This just before we came downstairs, actually, as you all were watching, that was developing up in Salem, New Hampshire.
Can you say whether or not the weapons were purchased?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, those firearms were found at the deceased body, not in a car. So he killed himself inside the storage unit, and the firearms were found at his in the area of his thigh and in the area of his feet. It was not in a car. There was evidence that was observed from outside the car that matched our crime scenes, meaning mask, clothing, satchel, which you can see on that video. And there was a main plate over a Florida plate. This guy was changing plates. One of the reasons it was so hard to find was he knew what he was doing. He was changing plates. And so, that's why the collective work of following and finding this car was made more difficult because this guy was changing plates. So we got a main plate and we got a Florida plate on the same car in New Hampshire.
Patrick.
As he was a...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Especially, I was just going to add.
Please.
Tom Greco again from ATF. It's okay. As far as the ballistics evidence, I know that the last question concerned matching the guns found to the crime scene. As several people up here have said, this investigation is ongoing, and in many ways, in some ways, just beginning. Those weapons that were found at the scene, we will be using our tools such as NIBIN to compare the ballistic evidence to see if we have any matches. So we use those tools to rule things in and to rule them out as well. So we'll be following up on that throughout the remainder of the investigation.
Patrick.
Neves Valente was a Portuguese national. Under what status was he in the country, and how did he get into the country? Do we know at this point? And I have a follow-up after that.
You have that, Oscar?
Yeah, I think I do. So as far as we know, he had a student visa. He had came in here with a student visa, and we also had learned that he had applied to get a green card.
Do we know? Sorry, I have a question. And for President Paxson, does Brown have
and Patrick, if I could just be clear on that, he got that lawful permanent resident status in September of 2017.
Thank you. I was going to ask, but then, and for President Paxson, has Brown had any communication from Neves Valente in the period after he left until now?
As far as I know, no. He has really gone off our radar. We will continue to cooperate with the police as they continue with the investigation to find anything we can find about him. But his last class that he took at Brown was in 2001.
Straight back.
This question is for the Colonel or the Attorney General. If you hadn't focused on the wrong person of interest on day one, do you think the professor of Massachusetts could be alive?
Well, from the beginning, I've told you that this investigation is extremely complex and intense. And so we used every resource as soon as we responded to the call. I stated that earlier. I'm proud of the men and women of this department. Yes, we did find somebody that we thought obviously was the person, but we continued on. We continued on investigating. We continued on canvassing the areas. We continued on with video. And that's why we ended up where we're at now.
Yeah, if I could just jump in here, I just want to continue to answer that question. It's an important one, and the answer to that is this. And I tried to convey it a couple of days ago. We broke ourselves out into teams. So while the Providence team and the state police team and the ATF team were working here in Providence to follow up leads, develop whatever video evidence we can, which eventually led to all the steps that you've seen and are laid out in the affidavit, which is on our website, and it is multiple pages. You'll see the progression. So while the FBI were working Coventry, we were working here. Now, you may ask, well, what was it about Coventry that made us, for those of us who've been in law enforcement for a long time, why did we have to run that lead to ground? Here's why. When the FBI confronted him, initially, he was not cooperative. When they entered the room to secure it, there were guns in the room. One of them had a laser sight. The witnesses had told us there was a laser sight used in the course of the attack. Okay, we had to run that to ground. We couldn't just, not run that to ground. That was a very promising lead. But that's why you don't get over your skis about, and word choice is important. So while we had to test those ballistics and test the DNA off those guns, and that DNA ruled this guy out, okay? But we had to run that lead to ground. But while we're running that lead to ground over the course of Sunday, for the most part, if my memory's correct, we were working other leads, which eventually led us through a recreation by the great work of the team, including the marshals, by the way, that are up here. Movements, image of our cooperating witness comes in, and you've heard the rest. So, you know, this is the way these investigations work. You don't chase one and stop. We have chased more than one lead over the course of the last 4 to 5 days. There was one lead that we followed, didn't work out. There was another lead that we followed, didn't work out. There was another lead that we followed, didn't work out. So that's, at least in my mind, 5 different leads that one worked out, 4 didn't. But you're running them all down at the same time. So I can't offer any comfort in that regard, but I don't believe that we would have found this person any sooner, given the evidence that was available to us.
Way back.
Can you say why it took so long to get the tipster's tip? It looks like he posted on Reddit on Monday and then said on Reddit that he told the FBI. Was it lost in the FBI's tip?
We received the tip about that post and immediately acted on it. And so that's exactly what occurred. As soon as the tip came in, we had a tip center upstairs that was staffed, like, as I mentioned earlier, by detectives and agents. They were going through hundreds of tips that were coming in, hundreds. We were vetting them through, ruling them out, just like the general stated. We were making sure that whatever came in, we checked it to his entire, to ensure that we weren't missing anything. And so when we got to that tip, obviously, it led us to that person that we wanted to speak with, and I told you the rest earlier. So.
Yeah, and I just want to complete that too, because this is important. This person had to come forward. That's why we put the picture out. Once we put the picture out, he came forward, right? But we didn't know who that person was. We knew about what was on Reddit, but we didn't know who that person was. That's why when we identified another person, we didn't know when that person came forward that he was the Reddit poster. He then told us he was, okay? So all of these things kind of happened in that sequence.
Go ahead, Chris.
This Valente figure, this is a question for President Paxson. Do we know why he left school early in 2001? Did he have a history of mental illness that was expressed during that time or reported at that time?
No, we learned his name very, very recently, and we haven't had a chance to really dig into the records. But we will if it helps with the investigation.
This is another question about
a follow-up question.
This is another question about a student visa. You said he's here on a student visa now. What school is he affiliated with? He's here.
General.
Yeah. So he's not here on a student visa now. He was initially, and then he applied for and received lawful permanent resident status in September of 2017. Okay?
Thank you. Go right here.
What was Mr. Valente's profession, and have you searched his residence?
Yeah. Again, as I stated earlier, we just identified who obviously that person, and this developed pretty quickly. So that's all part of the investigation that's coming.
And can you talk about, was there any interaction between him and law enforcement before he died?
No, not that we know.
I have a follow-up to her.
There you
And
go.
that is, do you know any associates of his, family members, friends, roommates, and if there are any in the United States, did any of them come forward through the process of this investigation?
No, not at this time. This evolved extremely quickly. We've been at this for 6 days. And so here we are, and we now identify who the person is. We're about to make an apprehension. As I stated earlier, he took his own life. But that's all part of the investigation that will continue about him.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for President Paxson, Chief Farrow said he had no known criminal history that you know of. You were asked about possible mental illness while he was here. When he was at Brown, did he have any grievances, disputes with anyone, any problems, any disciplinary issues, any problems at all that were documented?
Not that we know of at this point. I mean, again, these are very, very old records, you have to understand. We learned about this very recently. And I think going forward, as we want to learn more, we will cooperate with the investigation to give them the information they need.
Go ahead, in the white shirt.
Hi, Brittany, WCBB. This question is for Colonel Perez. You mentioned that Claudio was the primary suspect, primary focus from the beginning. If that's the case, Can you elaborate more on why there was someone else detained initially, and the lead that led you to that person to being detained initially, if Claudia was the primary focus from the beginning?
Yeah, so,
And I have a follow-up.
sure, Brittany, great question. So we have received a tip about that first person. We have received a tip about him wanting to get a permit to carry a firearm. And so that led us to also learn that he was a person who potentially could be, it was just where he was denied and then he went to another department and the descriptions led us there. So we had it vetted through. Obviously, the FBI responded, followed through that whole tip, ended up finding the person, taking him to custody, finding him with 2 firearms, with a laser. And so it took a while for us to be able to rule him out. But it was a tip that came in. And as I stated earlier, as soon as the call came in, it was all hands on deck. And there was nothing that we were just going to say that is not anything that had to do with it, with this case. Obviously, we wanted to make an apprehension, and we went after that. So,
Yeah, if I could just jump in here, Mayor, I'm sorry to do that, but I think I heard you say that Mr. Valenti was the suspect from the start.
Primary focus.
No, he became the primary focus yesterday at around this time. This name was not known to us until yesterday. So when our cooperator came in last night, we were able to track the car, get the name, and then we were in the position of, today, do we push that name out so that you can help us find this guy, or do we think we know where he is? And so that was the balance. That was that back and forth analysis in our minds, collective investigative team minds, was going on today. But his name did not come to us until yesterday. As I said yesterday, until you have the name, which we did not have until yesterday, after our press conference together, that's when this thing heated up. As soon as you have a name, I believe you can find anybody in this country. And the fact that this team was able to do it in around 24 hours, I think is a tribute to them, their hard work around the clock, to do exactly what we have been talking about doing, which is how long is it going to take? And it took, roughly 5 days. And that's a tribute to them.
Brittany, if I could just clarify further on that. So what I meant, obviously, it was that the image that we released within hours of that person of interest that was walking on Waterman Avenue and around the corner, that was sent out within minutes. That became a primary focus of the investigation of that person of interest.
For the clarification,
Yes.
and if I may, my
Please.
follow-up. I believe it said the last address for Valenti is in Miami.
Correct.
Have law enforcement in Miami been notified? Are they searching this last address for any potential evidence?
No, Brittany, absolutely. Yes, that address, I believe, was one that predicated in 2001. And so, absolutely, the law enforcement agencies, both federal and local, were notified of that. They also went to that residence as well, also talked to the individuals that was at that particular residence to see if they had any type of connections or associations with Valenti.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
In the way back?
Question for Coronel Perez, I'm sorry. From Univision in Spanish and Cantonese. What's next? Do you have any leads on the motives? Como acaba de preguntar la colega, ya registraron la vivienda en la Florida. ¿Qué es lo que viene ahora? Si es que saben cuál fue su motivo para matar a esa persona.
Sí, vamos a seguir. So the question was, what's next, right? What are we going to do next? And so la respuesta es que vamos a seguir, obviamente, trabajando con las organizaciones federales y también entre nosotros buscando esa inteligencia de quién es esa persona, qué motivo lo trajo aquí a la ciudad de Providence a cometer esta tragedia, este incidente. Pero eso va a tomar tiempo verdaderamente y vamos a tener que averiguar más para ver qué fue el motivo que llegó a esta ciudad.
¿Tienen alguna pista de qué podría haber sido? ¿Qué es lo que van a estar buscando ahora?
No, hasta el momento no. Esto obviamente, como acabo de explicar ahorita, lo identificamos hace poco.
Go ahead. Right there.
What brought investigators specifically to New Hampshire? Does this person have a connection to New Hampshire? I know you said that the storage unit was in Tennessee.
So it was the financial records that the federal agency followed through the investigation that led us to learn that this person had rented there, so a storage unit. And so we responded immediately, and we found that the vehicle that we were looking for of interest was parked there.
Just one follow-up here.
Kate, go ahead.
Chief, can you speak a little bit more to that, again, identification of the vehicle of interest and the person who did that? And as you said, there was video captured. Could you walk us through that aspect of this? Was this the witness who provided to you the vehicle? Can you walk us through how that vehicle of interest entered the investigation? And then I have a follow-up.
Correct, yeah, it was part of the tip that was posted actually, and then also the tipster had called and had stated that this individual had a fob and was trying to enter a vehicle that was parked on Benevolent. And so because of that, we obviously knew there was a vehicle and there was a description of a vehicle. When we brought him in, he collaborated further on that vehicle. We put it out through Flock, the description of it, and we learned that within that time period, there was only a certain amount of vehicles that came up with those description fit in it. So our detectives obviously stayed on that and ended up finding this vehicle with Florida plates, and that's how we ended up with that specific vehicle. Then we had learned that the vehicle also potentially could have changed their plates, and as I stated earlier, we were able to find the vehicle on Flock, actually get the actual plate, learn that it was a car rental, which brought us up to learn that we needed to learn more at the rental place about the individual, which we did, and then further later, we find out, again, doing all the work that they did upstairs, I think it was tremendous too. If you had a chance and an opportunity to see how much work was put in, because it was bits and pieces of information. It's almost like putting a puzzle together. You only have just a few pieces and you're building it. And that later on led us with the financial records to learn that he rented a storage unit in New Hampshire, and that's why we ended up.
Kate, your follow-up. That one for the Chief or the Attorney General. You mentioned, again, weighing that public interest versus the information that was available to law enforcement at the time, as this person, again, considered armed and potentially dangerous, was out there. The Chief just spoke to license plates changing on a variety of moments, if you will. But was it too fast-moving? Talk to us about weighing, again, that providing information to the public with an armed and dangerous individual and vehicle use that involved multiple license plates and your decision not to sort of real-time inform the public of it.
Yeah, so we knew last night, who this guy was and that he had rented a car in Boston. So the question becomes, is he going to return the car to Boston? We got information he might return it to Connecticut. He didn't return it at all. But when we thought he might be returning it to the information, to the locations, we wanted to try to take him without him knowing we were coming. As soon as his name gets out there, he is going to be even more in the wind. And so the question becomes, if you think you might know where he is, right, eventually you find the storage unit, right, so you're following that up. But initially you think he might return the car to Boston on Atlantic Avenue, I believe, or in Connecticut, perhaps to board a flight somewhere. You're weighing, can I take this guy, because we know where he's going to be, and not alert him that we're coming. And so I would say this afternoon we were going back and forth on that. But as the FBI and the ATF and our other partners, Providence Police, State Police, developed evidence as to where he was, ultimately in New Hampshire, we decided to pursue to that location. And there we found the car with those multiple plates that we were looking for, a Florida plate and a Maine plate on top of it.
This news conference in Providence right now to go live to the Moakley Federal Courthouse. This is another news conference that is being given by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office with other information about this gunman tonight who was found dead in Salem, New Hampshire.
I'll answer you that, but that's a great question, Mark. And the reason for that is because when the incident first happened, it was our BCI unit that responded.
Connecticut and New Hampshire have been working throughout the day to establish probable cause to charge Neves Valente. Earlier today, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts filed a criminal complaint under seal detailing the chain of events over the past 6 days, including information that led us to today's search of the storage locker in New Hampshire. This is what we learned during this multi-jurisdictional investigation. Neves Valente studied at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island on an F1 visa around 2000 to 2021. He eventually obtained legal permanent resident status. Previously, he attended the same academic program as the MIT professor Nuno Loureiro in Portugal between 1995 and 2000. Although Neves Valente appeared to reside in Florida, between November 26th and November 30th of this year, he rented a hotel room in Boston. On December 1st, he rented a gray Nissan Sentra with Florida plates from a car rental agency in Boston. That same day, he drove to the vicinity of Brown University, where his car was observed intermittently between December 1st and December 12th. On December 13th, Neves Valente entered an auditorium on Brown University's campus during a study session and began shooting at students, killing Ella Cook and Mohammed Aziz Umarzokov, and injuring 9 others. Between December 13th and December 14th, Neves Valente returned to Massachusetts. On December 15th, he murdered MIT professor Nuno Luriero at Luriero's home in Brookline, Massachusetts. At some point while he was in Massachusetts, he switched the plates on the Nissan Sentra to an unregistered plate out of Maine. Immediately following Professor Luriero's murder, Neves Valente drove to a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where he had rented a storage unit in November of this year. Since the December 13th shootings at Brown and the December 15th shooting in Brookline, state, local, and federal law enforcement officials have been working hand in hand around the clock to identify the shooter and prevent him from inflicting further harm. I have said this before and will continue to believe when law enforcement agencies work together, crimes are solved and the public is protected. The information we provided to you tonight would not be possible without the dedicated men and women of law enforcement in multiple districts throughout New England, including the FBI, ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshal Service, Massachusetts State Police, Rhode Island State Police, Providence Police, Brookline Police, and the Brown University Police. In addition, prosecutors from the Rhode Island Attorney General's Office and the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, and federal prosecutors from Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts all contributed to this result. I also want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi for her support in coordinating the federal response.
Questions? Can you tell us anything about his motive and the 2 sets of victims and how they might be related and how he might be related to them?
That is not information that we can share right now, but as soon as that information becomes available, we will share that with the public.
Are you able to say anything of what led you to link the 2 crimes, perhaps initially?
Can you repeat the question so we can hear you well?
Yes, the question was how were we able to link him to the 2 crimes? So investigators identified the vehicle that he had rented in Boston and then drove to Rhode Island. And he was seen, the vehicle was seen outside of Brown, and there was security footage that showed a person who resembled him. There was financial investigations that were going on in the background that linked him not only to that car, but also to the hotels that he had rented and the car that he had used to not only drive to Rhode Island, but then back to Boston. And then there was the security footage that captured him within a half mile of the professor's residence in Brookline. And there is a video footage of him entering an apartment building in the location of the professor's apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit wearing the same clothes that he had been seen wearing right after the murder.
So you have an extensive video canvas as part of this investigation. That leaves you no doubt.
This is the evidence we have right now. We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and we wanted to provide you with the information and to assure the public that law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead, and that he was the person responsible not only for the Brown shootings, but for the Brookline shooting.
Can you speak to, before the self-inflicted gunshot, was there any interaction between law enforcement and, I know that Valente credit cards exchanged or anything like that?
No, when investigators went into the storage facility tonight to execute the federal search warrant, he was dead.
Do you think he entered there this evening?
No.
He entered an hour after what happened in Brookline.
Yes.
And do you know how long that storage, did he rent that? Like how long?
Our understanding from the financial investigation is that he had rented a storage facility at the location in Salem, New Hampshire in November.
Can you confirm whether or not he used the same weapon in the Brown shooting as he did in the MIT shooting?
Ballistics investigation was ongoing and has not been completed at this time, so we're not going to comment on that.
Can you give us any sense of when you started to recognize perhaps that he was the same person? I know it was through a video, but when it sort of dawned on investigators that these two cases were related?
It was in the last 24 to 48 hours that my understanding, according to my understanding, is when the link began to be established. And that was mainly, he was using a phone that was obfuscating ability to track it. And he was using financial, not credit cards that were tied to his name. And so he was sophisticated in hiding his tracks.
According to the complaint that was unsealed, it says that Ms. Valente and the MIT professor had attended the same academic program together in Portugal from 1995 to 2000. Do you know if they knew each other? Or
My understanding is that they did know each other.
Have they been in communication since that last date?
I don't have any information to provide you.
Would you call this targeted?
We're still investigating the motive in this case and trying to, because, like I said, he was very careful in his communications, and we just don't have any information right now to answer that question. But when we get that information, we will share it.
Was there anything else in the storage locker?
The storage locker in which his body was found, my information is that no.
Was that satchel in the storage?
Yes.
locker? What was in it?
Can you repeat the question? I can't hear you online.
So the question was there anything else in the storage unit aside from the defendant's body? And the answer is he was found in there with his satchel. There was nothing else found in there that I am aware of, but they're still in the process of searching that facility right now.
Did he kill himself right away?
We don't have any information when he killed himself, but he was dead when investigators found his body.
Can you tell us anything about his life? Like, I think you said the last known address was in Florida. Like, what he was doing? Was he working? Was he in the field of physics, which he had studied? Any sort of biographical stuff you can tell us about him?
Because his identity was only become aware to us in the last 24 hours, I can't provide you with any of that information right now, but I'm sure once we have a full understanding of what he has been doing, where he has been, aside from the time when he entered into New England in November, we will provide that information.
Besides the MIT professor, did you know any of the victims at Brown University personally?
We have no information that he knew any of the victims or anyone who was at that auditorium on the night that he went in and killed.
Have you been able to find anything about when he did attend Brown, whether there were any issues? If he was there briefly, was he kicked out? You know.
That information hasn't been provided to us yet.
Given what you see on the video of the MIT professor's home, is there any doubt that he was the intended target of the killing?
The information that I know, and again, the investigations are going to continue to be able to provide you with all the answers that you are asking, is that there was no doubt that he was the intended target.
We've been listening to U.S. Attorney Leah Foley describe the evidence that police have linking the man who was found dead tonight, Claudio Neves Valente, to both the deadly shooting at Brown University and the murder of MIT professor Nuno Loureiro.
So much has happened throughout this day. Just before that, we heard from officials in Providence outlining how they came up with the name of the person they were looking for. And of course, this all culminated tonight with finding him dead in a storage unit this evening. A lot more coming up right now on the WBZ News at 11 o'clock over on Channel 4. We'll see you then.
Live on WBZ TV and streaming on CBS News Boston. WBZ News starts now with breaking news.
Tonight, our Providence neighbors can finally breathe a little easier.
Manhunt is over and 3 murders have been solved. Federal officials tonight saying the suspect wanted for the deadly shooting at Brown University and the killing of an MIT professor in Brookline has been found dead in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire. Investigators say he took his own life.
This is the news that people all over New England have been waiting desperately to hear. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Lisa Hughes.
And I'm David Wade. A short time ago, officials announced the name of the man who started a deadly rampage by opening fire on college students. His name is Claudio Neves Valente. Police say he is a Portuguese national, 48 years old, and that he was a former Brown University student. His last known address was in Miami, Florida. Investigators also say he rented a car in Boston, and that's part of the way they tracked him down.
Now, we have team coverage with reporters stationed at each crime scene and at the end of the manhunt, a manhunt that spanned 3 states and that ultimately ended in New Hampshire. But we want to begin tonight with Louisa Moeller, who just got breaking new details from investigators in Providence, Rhode Island, about how this case was finally cracked. Louisa?
Well, Lisa, David, after days of saying they were searching for a person of interest, investigators tonight told us they are 100% certain that they know who their man is. They're just saying his name is Claudio Neves Valente, and tonight he was found dead from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound in a storage facility in New Hampshire. So what do we know about this suspect? Investigators are saying he is a 48-year-old Portuguese national who spent 1 year at Brown pursuing his PhD in physics between 2000 and 2001. Brown University's president saying that he would have been very familiar with the Barris and Holly Physics and Engineering building where the shooting took place, but that she couldn't track him to a specific classroom. We're also told that he went to the same university in Portugal with the slain MIT professor Nuno Loureiro. So what cracked this case wide open? Rhode Island's Attorney General says it was information from a very helpful witness. Remember that individual who was in close proximity of Valente in the surveillance images we saw? This person's image was released yesterday. Investigators say that person immediately came forward after seeing themselves on television and gave a description of a car and a license plate, which they were able to track via flock cameras. Those are license plate reading cameras, which led them to the car rental facility in Massachusetts, where investigators say he signed the rental car agreement under his own name. Here are investigators tonight.
It was actually a video that provided us with a description of a vehicle.
Talk back with her or no?
That was corroborated through a tip that was received to the tip center. That room was packed with detectives, agents receiving calls on a daily basis. We started early and left late. Then Flock and the LPR was able to provide us with this description of this vehicle. That vehicle was picked up by Flock, which led us to a car rental place in Massachusetts. Through that, the agents and their work as well were able to get us footage of this individual, as well as a copy of the agreement which provided his real name. The video of that subject matched the description of that person of interest that this police department was desperate to put handcuffs on.
President of Brown University, but
Now, there's a lot we still don't know tonight. Investigators say they are still looking into a motive. They are still looking into where he got his firearms. But they say they are 100% confident that they have identified and know where this now slain suspect is. And they also finished tonight's news conference on a slightly lighter note, saying that the injured Brown students who were shot and remained in the hospital all are in stable condition tonight. For now, we're live in Providence. Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
All right, Louisa, thank you. And just moments ago, we learned more about how investigators linked the mass shooting in Providence to the killing of an MIT professor in Brookline 2 days later.
Leah Foley, the U.S. Attorney from Massachusetts, based here in Boston, just answered some of those questions. She says MIT professor Nuno Loureiro and the gunman knew each other, as Louisa mentioned just a moment ago, and that they studied together at a university in Portugal. Here's what Leah Foley said about how investigators ultimately linked these two crimes.
So investigators identified the vehicle that he had rented in Boston and then drove to Rhode Island. And he was seen the vehicle was seen outside of Brown, and there was security footage that showed a person who resembled him. There was financial investigations that were going on in the background that linked him not only to that car, but also to the hotels that he had rented and the car that he had used to not only drive to Rhode Island, but then back to Boston. And then there was the security footage that captured him within a half mile of the professor's residence in Brookline. And there is a video footage of him entering an apartment building in the location of the professor's apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit.
And tonight, WBZ crews on the ground and in the air watched as police surrounded that Salem storage facility where the gunman was found dead.
This was a massive response. Our Aaron Parsegian, who joins us now live from Salem, New Hampshire, was also there and saw this as it happened. Aaron?
Yeah, David and Lisa, and police are still here on scene where this manhunt finally came to an end. The FBI says they executed a search warrant at this storage facility here in Salem, New Hampshire, just before 9 o'clock tonight. Agents went inside, and that's where they say they found the body of 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente. And it was around that same time, actually, right after we saw swaths of FBI agents and the evidence response teams with the FBI, as well as a mobile processing lab, come to the scene here. Now, investigators in Providence tonight say Valente was found with a satchel that was seen on those initial person of interest videos. 2 guns and other evidence recovered in that car that they tracked here to Salem that matches things uncovered at the scene at Brown University. This was a massive police response here in Salem for hours tonight, drawing onlookers from nearby who couldn't believe this massive hunt ended in their backyards.
I can't believe they didn't find him all week, and now he's just right here. I was looking on the news earlier, and this is what I see. Perfect night. Get to watch.
You know, we've been following this all week, and, you know, is this guy going to get caught? Is he going to get away? You know, they caught a guy, and then they released him, and you know, finality now.
And this road is now back open to traffic. You can see they have yellow tape surrounding the storage facility. Investigators still in and out, but certainly some relief for people around this neighborhood that this manhunt has finally come to an end. David, Lisa.
Aaron, thank you. And that development, that this suspect is no longer on the run, is certainly a weight that has been lifted from the grieving community in Providence.
Our Logan Hall is live near Brown University tonight, where people for 6 days now have eagerly awaited an update like this one. Logan.
Yeah, David and Lisa, that's right. Good evening. I've been here on this campus over the course of the last 6 days, and folks have been experiencing a lot of fear and a lot of frustration as they have been waiting for this search to come to fruition. Folks that we have talked to tonight tell us they have been glued to their phones, watching along for updates, waiting for law enforcement to find this person. Now, this is a very tight-knit community here. It's a small and tight-knit campus, and students that we have talked to have told us that it has changed over the course of this week since they have lost those those 2 students and several more here have been injured. We've had the chance to talk to students about how life has changed here on campus. They say that they have been scared to walk from class to class, scared to walk from their dorm to the cafeteria here on campus, saying that the university has advised them to take caution. People that live here in this community tell us that they have been hopeful that this will come to an end so that they can once again feel safe. This is a sigh of relief for this community. Here's some of what we heard tonight.
I mean, I definitely think there's a sense of relief in the community having found the person. I think that will make everyone feel a little bit better, but I really don't think that justice can truly be served until we do something about these issues that keep happening over and over again.
So much of this community has thinned out as students have gone home for the winter break, but as we've been here over the course of the last several days, we have seen students stop by the memorial, leave flowers, and pay their respects. Students that we've talked to so far tonight tell us they are relieved that this is all coming to an end. Guys, back to you.
All right, Logan Hall reporting live in Providence. Thanks, Logan. And while we are laser focused on every new development in this case, we also want to take a step back and look at what brought us here. It was Saturday afternoon that the shooter opened fire at Brown University, killing 2 students and wounding 9 others. On Monday night, MIT professor Dr. Nuno Loureiro was shot at his Brookline home. He died on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, investigators in Providence released enhanced photos of a person of interest seen walking around Brown's campus both before and after the shootings. Tonight, police and FBI agents spent hours searching the area around a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire, where police now say the killer was found dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
And you may remember it was yesterday that they put out a photo of somebody that they wanted to speak to, not a person of interest, but somebody who was in close proximity to the person of interest. Cheryl Fiandaca joins us now. And Cheryl, they say that actually broke the case wide open.
Exactly. They apparently said that this guy had an interaction with him and, in fact, followed him. And at one point, the suspect said to him, "Why are you harassing me?" He noticed that he was acting suspiciously. He noticed that he had parked his car and he was around that area several times. He was able to provide that information to police, and they were able to then go to the rental car company, get a picture of him, get his real name, and be able to track him down.
Now, earlier we were talking with an FBI profiler who said this doesn't look like somebody who is a career criminal by any stretch when you look at the body language. We learned tonight, though, that he was pretty sophisticated in his effort to cover his tracks.
He was. I mean, he had main plates that he was able to attach to the car. He was using different credit cards with different names. He was obviously casing the area. He had been there several times before the actual shooting at Brown University. He apparently planned this and actually rented the storage facility in November. So all of this looks like this was a big effort that he pulled together to commit these crimes. The motive is still obviously a big question here, but we know that he had a relationship and he knew the professor that was killed. As to what he was doing at Brown University, other than knowing that he was a student there more than 20 years ago, we don't know any more than that.
Although they did mention that he took classes in that building as a physics student.
Yes, that's right. So he was here on a student visa at the time, and he was later made a permanent legal resident. But we don't know what the motive would have been to go to that school on that day in that classroom and shoot those students. That's the big mystery here.
Amazing how much has happened over the past 24 hours, and specifically really this afternoon. Cheryl Fiandaca on top of it the whole time. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Breaking tonight, after 6 days of fear and frustration, federal officials now say the search for the Brown University shooter and the killer of an MIT professor is over. The man responsible was found dead tonight in a Salem, New Hampshire storage facility. Investigators say he died by suicide.
Moments ago, we learned his name, Claudio Neves Valente. Police say he's a Portuguese national, 48 years old, and a former Brown University student. His last known address was Miami. Police also say he rented a car in Boston, and that is part of the evidence they used to track him down. We're also learning more about how police finally cracked this case.
And of course, this all started with the murder of 2 students at Brown University. 9 others were hurt. Louisa Moeller joins us now, and new details, boy, came in very quickly tonight. What do we know?
Well, David, Lisa, we've been in this room almost every single day, and the Attorney General saying they've taken a lot of heat, but what ended up happening is there was a helpful witness who really cracked this case wide open. He's referring to the individual who was seen in photos released by police yesterday. That's the person who is described as someone in proximity to who we now know as Claudio Neves Valente. And the Attorney General says that that person ended up coming forward to investigators describing a car and plate, which they were then able to track via flock cameras. Those are license plate reading cameras. That led them to a rental car facility in Massachusetts. And then Claudio Valente apparently signed the rental car agreement under his own name. But it wasn't as easy as that. So take a listen to the Attorney General about some of the ways this suspect tried to evade his capture.
This guy was changing plates. One of the reasons it was so hard to find was he knew what he was doing. He was changing plates. And so, that's why the collective work of following and finding this car was made more difficult because this guy was changing plates. So we got a main plate and we got a Florida plate on the same car in New Hampshire.
And now there's the meticulous process of continuing this investigation and trying to figure out motivations. What we do know from listening to the news conference here and the news conference with the U.S. Attorney in Massachusetts is that Claudio Valente was a physics PhD student for 1 year at Brown University from 2000 to 2001. He also apparently went to the same university as MIT physics professor Nuno Loureiro. But what his specific motivations were, that is still under investigation. Whether he legally obtained the firearms that were used, that is still under investigation. And then, of course, whether he had any associates in the United States where he currently has permanent legal lawful residency, those are all open questions. So this investigation is far from over. Live in Providence, I'm Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
We hope to learn those bits of information in the coming days. Louisa, thank you.
And our team coverage of the end of this massive manhunt continues in just a moment.
Welcome back, everyone. We have some impactful weather on the way in for tomorrow. So let's talk about this windswept rainstorm that'll be moving in. About a half-inch to an inch of rain, some localized street flooding, but the biggest thing we're watching tomorrow, some strong potential wind gusts in the range of 40 to 60 miles per hour. So a wet, windy finish to the week. Wind advisories up pretty much region-wide. The high wind warnings near the coastline from anywhere on the North Shore through Boston, the South Shore to the South Coast and the Cape, as well as the Berkshires and the Greens. And that's where we should see some of our strongest wind gusts tomorrow. Temperatures, they've already bottomed out for the night, and now we're going to start to see the rise. 50 in New Bedford, as well as down on the Vineyard. Most towns will be near or a little over 50 when we start the day tomorrow. So here comes that storm system all wrapped up. We'll start to get into somewhat weather, but really it's a line of downpours that comes through, and it's in this line right along the front that will have some of the stronger wind gusts. So it won't be like a nor'easter where it's all day wind. It'll get breezy outside, but the bigger gusts, those high-end gusts, they'll come down in some bursts with heavier rainfall. Showers tonight moving up through Pennsylvania. Tomorrow, they arrive here early in the day, a few showers, but mostly we're watching about 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. That's where the lion's share of any rainfall as well as stronger wind gusts are going to occur. And a really mild day. We'll be on the doorstep of 60 for high temperatures tomorrow. So here's a look at how it plays out early in the day. For the commute and kicking things off, some showers around, but largely fills in around 9 a.m. So 9 to 3, some of that heavier rainfall at times, even a chance for some thunder and lightning, particularly on the cold front. This is your front coming through right around 2 o'clock. That's also where we'll see our strongest wind gusts early afternoon. That's where we peak. Behind it, still breezy outside, but not nearly as windy. And there still could be a trailing rain or snow shower in the evening as temperatures drop quickly. Peak winds, top gusts about 40 to 50 miles per hour for most, where we have the chance of some over 50 from Cape Ann and the North Shore down across southeastern Massachusetts. And that's where we could be as high as 60 miles per hour. So some scattered tree damage, some scattered power outages will be possible. If you're working from home, always a good idea to save your work. Make sure things are charged up before you get going. There's a look at Cape Cod, and you see those strongest winds late morning through the middle of the afternoon, but it does stay blustery into early on Saturday morning. But for a very busy holiday weekend, the weather will be much more cooperative. A dry Saturday in the upper 30s. Sunday, we're in the 40s. A slight chance of a passing rain shower. And if you're heading to the ski slopes, obviously tomorrow's not ideal. There'll be a good amount of melting, but the snow guns will be fired back up this weekend. And we'll also get some light snow on Sunday coming through some of the mountains. Next week, Christmas week, it looks like a dry, chilly Monday. If we have any snow on the ground for Christmas, it's going to have to be with the Clipper on Tuesday. A chance for some light snow and rain.
Let's go Clipper.
Yes.
We're rooting for it. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. And we'll be back right after this with more of our breaking coverage on the end of the manhunt tonight. An end that came in Salem, New Hampshire after the deadly shootings at Brown University and in Brookline. We are following breaking news tonight. Investigators in Providence say the gunman wanted for the mass shooting at Brown University died by suicide. His body found in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire.
And investigators now say that Claudio Neves Valente also shot and killed MIT professor Nuno Loureiro on Monday.
Now, the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts just wrapped up a news conference on how investigators tied these two crimes. Brandon Truitt is live at the federal courthouse in Boston with more on that. Brandon.
Lisa and David, it all goes back to the rental car that really is at the center of this. They say that when Valente first got to Boston weeks ago, actually checking into a hotel the day before Thanksgiving, they were able to use the Gmail account associated with that reservation to start tracking his movements. Ultimately, they say he went straight from Brown University to Brookline, and he was pinged about a half a mile away from the professor's home a day before he ultimately shot and killed him. Here's a look at 47-year-old Professor Nuno Loureiro, who really is at the center of this part of the Brookline incident here. Investigators say that they have video of the suspect entering a nearby apartment before he ultimately shot him. And then they revealed that the suspect drove directly to the storage unit in New Hampshire, saying he got there within about an hour. They believe he stayed there and ultimately until he was found dead this evening. Part of the struggle in tracing his movements, investigators ultimately admitted, is that he was using sophisticated tactics to avoid being caught.
He's using an application on his phone, and there have been a couple of things. The Google phone doesn't allow officers to ping the direct location and get real-time location information about the phone. There was also beliefs that he was using SIM cards that were possibly European SIM cards that are carried through a provider in the United States but does not provide real-time information about tower connections. He was using financial, like not credit cards that were tied to his name, and so he was sophisticated in hiding his tracks.
Investigators say the video that they have of Valente in Brookline, he's wearing the same clothing that he was found wearing this evening, again in the storage unit that he rented out last month. Investigators also saying that Valente and the professor knew each other, having gone to school together in Lisbon, but it's unclear exactly the last time they spoke. Lisa, David.
Brandon Truitt live for us in Boston. Thank you, Brandon.
And our chief investigator, Cheryl Fiandaca, has been on top of all of this today. Her thoughts when we come back in just a moment.
We have been following breaking news all night. Police say this is the man who opened fire on Brown University students, killing 2 of them and wounding 9 others. And investigators now say it is the same man who killed an MIT professor in Brookline 2 days after that mass shooting in Providence.
All of the major developments today. Our chief investigator, Cheryl Fiandaca, broke so much of it. And Cheryl, tonight they're saying that this individual, very sophisticated in everything he did.
Absolutely. I mean, we're learning tonight that he had a Google phone, which are very hard to ping. We're learning that he had international SIM cards. We're learning that he used credit cards that were not in his name. We're learning that he planned this, that he actually made a storage unit and rented a storage unit in November and actually cased out both locations before the shootings.
Yeah, and in the coming days, we're also going to get the ballistics information. I know tonight the U.S. Attorney said we're not prepared to release that. What are they looking at right now with respect to that?
Well, the ballistic information will tell them a little bit about the gun, and then they can trace back where he bought it, how he got it to Boston, all of that information. But they're also going to look at a bunch of other information, which, you know, the reason why they were able to put this whole thing together, they found the car at both locations with the flock camera that was able to help do that. They have a video of him at both locations. So they have some other pieces, and they have witnesses.
Cheryl Fiandaca, such great work throughout this day today. Thank you so much for that.
It has been a fascinating day of so many developments after days of having almost nothing.
And with 6 days of a manhunt keeping people really in fear, we really want to end tonight with a look at the true victims of this terrible tragedy. A young man, a young woman from Brown University, and an MIT professor as well.
Yes, as we learn more answers, these are the 3 victims who will remain in our thoughts, as will their families. Thank you for being with us tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.